Welcome one and all to the close of the week here at The Damage Board. I'm John DeRolla, very lucky to be joined by Brett Erlich. Brett, how's it going?
I'm the take off your clothes of the week.
What?
I don't know, John. I don't feel normal. I'll tell you what.
You were fine a minute ago.
I'll tell you what.
Like
I had a shtuck last week, John. And it laid me up for like 4 days because I did strain an ab, and then I compensated around my rib cage.
Shtuck update.
People want to know. The people want to know, and now it's gone. So I'm like, I've got the zoomies, like a week's worth of zoomies to get out.
Like a puppy who hasn't been walked enough. Okay, good. Then you can use
the coffee's
on the news.
Thanks, wife.
That's wonderful. This is so tightly produced. Anyway, I'm glad to have you here. Brett is the host of Happy Half Hour. I mentioned that to get him off of whatever topic he was talking about. And you did a list, which was the most attractive food mascots. I think you were trying to do a public service to Tucker Carlson. What ended up winning in the end?
This is daytime, so we will use the word attractive. It was not that word when we did it.
I wish it was.
The finals were the OG green M&M, cheers Tucker, versus the Land O'Lakes lady, who doesn't exist anymore. And the winner was the Land O'Lakes lady.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. Poor man, the M&Ms have had a rough run of it. They've been replaced as mascots, and now they don't even win your little thing. That sucks. But I guess it was democratic, so we'll accept the results.
I don't know how the Chicken of the Sea Mermaid and the Gorton's Fisherman didn't win. Gorton's Fisherman, decidedly sexier than you think he was. Just like a grizzled longshoreman, or not a longshoreman, but like a just
sea zaddy.
He's seen things. Sees at it, yes.
Anyway, I think that's it for today, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you on Monday. Anyway, we do have news. I'm trying to remember what it is. Oh yes, continued fallout from the Republican, banishment of Ilhan Omar from the House Foreign Affairs Committee. We're gonna have that for you, as well as the two-headed fight that they're engaging in to rebut accusations that they did it because they're racist, and racist rejoicing that she's been taken off at the same time. So we'll be talking about both of those. Recent Supreme Court decision having to do with guns and how it might affect you and the people you know. We'll be talking about what if free lunch, but not free. So that'll be fun. And if you stick around for the aftermath, we will of course be throwing out our garbage people of the week, talking a little bit about social media as well as AI. It's honestly like the only thing I want to talk about these days. So we're gonna be doing that. But in any event, in the run up to that, please hit the like button, share the stream so that people know we're live. And if you want to send us any comments, tweets, or super chats, either to make an insightful point or perhaps get a chuckle or maybe even get a Blue Apron gift card, you can do that and Brett and I will respond as we go. But with all that said, Brett, how would you like to start the show?
I would love to. I'm getting increasingly mad at the audience for having so many gift cards because I used mine once. It was the greatest thing to ever happen to me, my wife included in that list. And now my life is empty. So I'm jealous of everyone who's gotten
Blue Apron. Like it's a thing. You can still get it. Anyway, no, you should be more mad about the fact that the audience is pointing out obvious omissions from your list, including the Count Chocula count.
If you are attracted to the Count Chocula count, just go try to hit on John Kerry. It's the same person.
Okay, well, we're gonna try to make a mock-up of that and see how accurate that is. But now is the time when we will talk politics. Let's do it.
As a fellow New Yorker, I think one of the things that we should talk about here is also one of the disgusting legacies after 9/11 has been the targeting and racism against Muslim Americans throughout the United States of America. And this is an extension of that legacy. Consistency, there is nothing consistent with the Republican Party's continued attack except for the racism and incitement of violence against women of color in this body. I had a member of the Republican caucus threaten my life, and you all and the Republican caucus rewarded him with one of the most prestigious committee assignments in this Congress. Don't tell me this is about consistency. Don't tell me that this is about a condemnation of anti-Semitic remarks when you have a member of the Republican caucus who has talked about Jewish space lasers and an entire amount of tropes and also elevated her to some of the highest committee assignments in this body. This is about targeting women of color in the United States of America. Don't tell me, because I didn't get a single apology
Time has expired.
when my life was threatened. Thank you.
The Republicans got what they wanted. They got rid of Ilhan Omar, at least from the House Foreign Affairs Committee. She persists, and perhaps someday she'll get back on that committee. In the meantime, I've loved the defense of Representative Omar. I would have loved to have seen more of that sort of defense early on when Fox News was demonizing her on a daily basis from people like Nancy Pelosi and others. But of course, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has been, in her corner from the very beginning, and her remarks were great. She, I think, points out a lot of the motivations that drove and continue to drive the Republican crusade against Representative Omar. And I love that she did it, that she wouldn't allow herself to be silenced. We're gonna have, a lot of people on the other side who are not happy about that. But Brett, what'd you think?
I mean, she's right. And it's very obvious. Now, what's happening generally is people like to say, I know the crazies are gonna crazy, but people somewhat in the quote middle of the sanity spectrum loved the easy ones, which are like, I'll just say the far right and the far left, and I'll equate them. I'll say that Marjorie Taylor Greene is the equal and opposite of AOC Ilhan Omar. That's not the case. Ilhan Omar did invoke anti-Semitic tropes, knowingly or unknowingly, she did it. In one of the 5 examples they always cite against her. So that's already unhinged. Every time you look at a quote from Marjorie Taylor Greene, it's absolutely insane. Every time you look at a quote from Lauren Boebert, it's absolutely insane. It's hateful, and worse, it's steeped in this petty, stupid, fake outrage. You should be outraged that Ilhan Omar got taken off the committees. Why? Because it is absolutely because she's a Muslim woman, and they know it. You see it in their eyes. The fact that she wears a covering over her head makes them absolutely furious. And worse, they know it's easy because they're children on a play yard. They're looking for things that are different and being mean about them, hoping that the people around them will cheer and clap and give them clout and a seat at the cool kids table.
Yeah, 100%. And some of them probably, genuinely, the new class of people like Marjorie Greene, probably actually personally are filled with those same sorts of resentment. She is a person who would have just watched a bunch of Fox News, consumed a bunch of conspiracy theories from Facebook, and eventually got into Congress. A lot of the other ones are just perfectly happy to use this because they know that their base will eat it up. They have been trained to hate Representative Omar. They've been trained to demand that something happened to her, at the very least getting her off of the committee. Their fantasies about what could happen to Representative Omar obviously go much farther than that. And they will use that to placate the base and get what they really want, which for a lot of these Republicans has absolutely nothing to do with the content of the committees, let alone the membership of the committees. It's financial, that's what they want. But I love that she pointed out it has been, decades now, a couple solid decades of Islamophobia. It is 100% normalized. Hosts on Fox News can say absolutely horrendous things, and we'll get to some of them, and there's no expectation, there's no even hope of any sort of consequences. It's 100% allowed. And I just hate it. I love to see a strong defense of it. AOC, I think, obviously has a working relationship with Representative Omar, has been friends with her now for a few years, and the idea that she would be taken off of a committee where she could not only lend now her years of experience, but also her unique perspective as the first naturalized person coming from Africa serving on this committee. And discussing things that have to do with that continent, let alone its relations with others, is important. It sucks to see her taken off. So that's the defense. And there was a lot of other good. Eric Swalwell had a pretty good thing, and we could go through all the hypocrisy. We'll probably get to some of it, but I want to transition now into some of the pushback from the press that's been coming. So here is Kevin McCarthy responding to that.
I just want to get you to comment on some of the things that Leader Jeffrey said. He had a press conference before you. He had these posters up of some of the words that members of your conference have said in the past. So can you just respond to some Democrats who
I wasn't at the press conference, so can you tell me an example?
Yeah, well, I'm just saying for example, he had comments from Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Is she on Foreign Affairs?
No.
Is she on Intel? Okay, I make my case. Next question.
Was that a burn or was that clever? I know the body language tells me that he thinks that was some sort of winning argument. What does that have to do with literally everything? Oh, I understand. Okay, so they want to be able to do this, target these specific people for 100% partisan, in the case of Omar, racist reasons. But they believe that, well, if we make it more specific, then I guess we have a defense. Also, then maybe a precedent won't be set for them to do this going forward. What does it matter which committee it was? Marjorie Greene is on Homeland Security. She says COVID is a hoax and Jewish space lasers start wildfires. So like, if this is about qualifications, ability to deal with the subject matter, her ability to assess threats to the homeland is out of whack as anything in government. So why is she on that committee? Oh, we only have standards for foreign affairs now? Where the hell did that come from? No, this is an arbitrary thing that he made, but that he thinks is a defense. And he would love, by the way, I like that whoever that reporter is. It was a good question. I would have loved for that reporter to point out that Kevin McCarthy himself has said that Jewish billionaires literally buy elections. He named several of them, and of course, including George Soros. He tweeted that out. Literally buy elections. Now, that's not super novel. Many Republican and some Democratic politicians say things like that. You'll notice he hasn't stripped himself off of any committees. He's on a number of important committees, including oversight and ways and means and all these incredibly important committees. He has said things that invoke the exact same anti-Semitic stereotypes, and yet he's fine with that. He has a perfect working relationship with Donald Trump, who has talked about Israelis meddling in elections and buying politicians and stuff like that. So again, like AOC said, this is not in any way about consistency. Get that word out of your mouth. Or what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Kevin McCarthy is the leader of the Republicans in Congress. And when you ask Republicans what they stand for these days, it's like, I'm an alpha male trying to protect my little woman wife. And Kevin McCarthy's just a little wiener. Like, he's so sad and pathetic. And even when he thinks he's got a sick burn, it was not very warm. It was just flaccid, weak, and crappy. It didn't land. And by and large, I am shocked that America, which I believe is the best country in the world, rah, rah, Keck W, like I'm all about it, right? Our leaders are so weird.
Yeah.
Like our leaders are such weak weirdos. I mean, even the Nancy Pelosi's and the Chuck Schumers, when Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer were in that room with Donald Trump, and Donald Trump was like, I'll take responsibility for the government shutdown. Like the weird look arounds, like, oh, we got him, like it's bad. The giggle town that they all go into when they're like, we're gonna get you, and nobody laughs. It sucks. Yeah. And Kevin McCarthy is just the latest in line. Donald Trump at least had like a tight 5 in the debates in 2016 and occasionally can get like a zinger in. But none of the people in leadership in our country have any like chutzpah, ganas, riz. There's none
Charisma.
of it.
Yeah, 100%. Authenticity, it's not just that it's performative. Many things you could make the case are performative to some extent or another. Obviously, AOC was playing things up. I think that she both is objectively right, and I think genuinely feels the things that she's saying. But when a camera's on you play it up. I play things up on this show, but it's such a wide leap from like the conception they have of themselves and what they actually stand for to what they present on screen. I mean, Ted Cruz is like a walking embodiment of that on a daily basis. In any event, I don't want us to lose, I think, the substance of why their attacks against Ilhan Omar I find to be so troublesome, the precedent that it sets going forward. So we've sort of a weird way to continue to discuss this. Why don't we jump into our next video?
I think that you have to be careful that criticism of Israel is not necessarily anti-Semitism and vice versa. She can criticize a state that she has meaningful disagreements with. I mean, she is a Muslim woman. She's the first naturalized African.
My question, we can have a poll.
Citizen.
How many people think she's anti-Semitic? Let's show. How many people? How many people agree with Geraldo?
I don't. Oh. And it doesn't hurt my feelings.
Damn it. I thought that we might have that one. When he went to the crowd, I was like, oh, no, they agree that she's anti-Semitic with Hannity. Damn it, man. Well, it's representative and all that. So I guess that's where America stands. Hannity is such a little baby boy, such a pathetic, smooth-brained little baby boy. What is the point of that? That doesn't mean literally anything. I could just type to Chat GPT, please applaud me right now. And it is exactly as meaningful as going to that live Fox studio audience. He made a perfectly good point. Probably the sort of point that they have probably used in defense of some Republicans, since Republicans so frequently say wildly anti-Semitic things themselves. But in this case, like, it doesn't mean anything. I don't necessarily like Geraldo, Brett, but Geraldo's point, I think, is right. Now, you can still criticize the particular way that criticisms are worded. And again, as you said earlier, knowingly or unknowingly, continuing anti-Semitic stereotypes having to do with money or whatever, but you get to criticize foreign governments. They certainly are not hesitant to do that. Do we want to like review the last year of their commentary about people like Zelensky? They clearly are fine criticizing governments, but they want you to believe without them ever having to state that there is one government or one leader of one government or one party operating inside of a multi-party democracy inside of a government that you cannot criticize. And so that obviously cannot be allowed.
None of the people who clapped are like pro-Semites at all in any way. They are absolutely trafficking in those same tropes, as you said earlier in the show, with like the Soros trope. And the reason they don't like Zelensky, they'll latch on to like, he's Jewish, that Nazi. It's really weird. I don't like it at all. And to answer your question, like, what is it for? I know why you'd said that. I know your rhetorical approach to that. I echo and applaud it. But just to explain what Fox News was invented for. Now, a prevailing dynamic in political discourse is if you find people around you who are like-minded, you're more likely to get engaged. That's why there's outreach. But if you don't find people around you who are like you, then you get disengaged and you don't participate. And so Fox News was an apparatus intended originally in an analog time to get everybody to find more like-minded voices and get more engaged in politics. Sure. And it isn't like a general question of the American population, what do you believe, is Ilhan Omar an anti-Semite? There are polls they can go cite for that. But Fox News has been running like Fox News polls on shows like Hannity's and Bill O'Reilly's for 15, 20 years, asking their audience, not what does America think about this, but how effective have I been in telling you something so that you believe not only what I'm telling you, but that only reasonable people believe that thing. And usually you just wait for a graphic to come up. There, he waited for people to clap. And Geraldo's like, listen, I hosted a daytime talk show in the 80s. I was surrounded by morons for most of my career. I am shocked at how dumb people have gotten in the 90s or whatever decade it is right now. Yeah. Really quick disclaimer, I meant K-Kona earlier instead of KEKW. I'm a moron.
I think you're covered. I think you're good. Yeah, no, I like, by the way, your explanation about the early, part of the, well, not only with Fox News, but also like there's definitely a version of that. Like the online world has allowed, like there's always been totally out of their mind conspiracy theorists, but they've generally been pretty isolated. There might be like an AM radio show or something. But now there's Telegram and there's Reddit and there's whatever. Like they can find each other. It feels like, oh wait, there are more people who believe this. We have Alex Jones. He's broadcasting now. It's not even just public access, it's something bigger. And I definitely think that it has that effect. Conservatives are responding to the accusations from people like Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez that their ongoing war against Representative Ilhan Omar has much less to do with her supposed qualifications to serve on the House Foreign Affairs Committee and more to do with the fact that she is a outspoken progressive, but also a woman of color. So I'm gonna start off with what I think is the intellectual avatar for the modern day right. Kevin Sorbo tweeted, Ilhan Omar has been removed from the Foreign Affairs Committee, not because she's incompetent, but clearly because she's a woman of color. That's the only reason. It's a great point and well delivered. Here's the thing. Many others on the right seem to be like trying to make the case that it wasn't about qualifications, it's racial matters. And I am not going to burden you with like all that I have come across the last day or two. You've probably seen a lot of this too, but here are a few pieces of evidence. So As to the substance of it and how serious the things she said is, how she needs to be taken off, I found this to be interesting. As they rode the elevator away from the House floor, Congressional newspaper Roll Call reported that the Foreign Affairs Committee GOP member Ken Buck and Republican Representative Mike Simpson reflected on what had just transpired and decided it was a boneheaded move. After Buck decreed it was the stupidest political move, Simpson said the expulsion would probably make the Minnesota Democrat into a martyr. After airing their grievances, the pair reportedly asked those around them not to let leadership know their thoughts. And Insider reached out to their offices for a comment, and they won't give it. Like, they thought it was a stupid thing that the Republicans were doing. You'll notice though, they voted to kick her off of the committee. They don't think that it's like a place that you have to make a stand. How could we possibly conduct the affairs of the committee with Ilhan? No, they think it's that stupid stuff that the Republicans are doing. I guess we'll do it. I guess we'll kick her off. We don't care what happens or what signal it sends to the American people. The leadership sort of likes it, so please don't tell them that we think it's stupid and boneheaded. So that's the early signal that we have what some Republicans think about it. Then you have people like Charlie Kirk, he's weighing in. Why is AOC bouncing and dancing all over the place? This speech is rhetorical blackface, he said about the speech that she gave in defense of Representative Omar. So in a speech where she talked about racist harassment against both her and Representative Omar, she talked about the legacy of post 9/11 Islamophobia and xenophobia. And accused the right of being driven by racism. One of their most popular commentators decided to weigh in and say that the fact that she was animated in her delivery of those remarks is blackface, because those black people, I guess. So again, I don't think I really need to make the case. I kind of feel like he is. Then there's the randos, or maybe they're not randos. I don't know, because now everybody can pay $8 to get a check mark on Twitter, so you never know. But I saw, in response to AOC posting that video, a portion of her remarks, Elijah Wood, I like Elijah Wood, I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan. I love Frodo. He responded with 3 hearts. That's fine, no problem with that. Daniel DW, who's part of the Elon Musk $8 a month fan club, says, do you whip yourself like extreme religious Catholics to be forgiven of your white guilt? He was so angry at Elijah Wood for posting those 3 hearts that he accused Elijah Wood of being a race traitor. I don't know what, because a white person wasn't happy that a black woman was taken off a committee. He's burned by white guilt. Like, they clearly have race at the forefront of their minds. And this is not new. To sort of just catch us up. Fox host Will Cain called Ilhan Omar a real parasite on our political system. She's feeding off a host, and that host will ultimately die. He's literally calling her, well, something worse than a cockroach, because I don't think cockroaches are technically parasites. But you have, I'm forgetting this guy's name, and that makes me happy. Pete Hegseth, I remembered. Pete Hegseth says, Ilhan Omar is what unchecked illegal immigration and massive waves of refugees look like without assimilation. Inside the halls of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, she is the authority, and she wants more refugees just like her. Refugees that became a part of America and gained enough respect amongst their peers that they were elected to the House of Representatives. Yeah, she does want more of those. I would also like more of those. Tucker Carlson called her repulsive, loathsome. She passionately hates the country. Can a single human being actually be as loathsome as Ilhan Omar is? It's hard to believe. She's like a parody of her repulsiveness. Sometimes you doubt she really exists. The RNC must have created her. We can't confirm that, of course, which is interesting because he's really revealing what this whole thing is. You can't actually hate Ilhan Omar based on the merits, but they have created a version of her for their audience. They've created it in a lab and then presented it to their audience, and you can hate that, I suppose. By the way, while we're on anti-Semitism, do you know what Tucker Carlson used his platform before millions of people yesterday to do? To host Catherine Austin Fitts, a 9/11 truther, an anti-vaxxer, and someone who says Ziocons control top US officials as, quote, puppets. It's a scheme perpetrated by, quote, the central banks. We're going into a system where literally our homes, our cars, our communities become digital concentration camps. So central banks and online Jewish Ziocons are putting all of us non-Jewish people into digital concentration camps. That's who Tucker Carlson hosted not 12 years ago, not 6 months ago. on the day that they kicked Ilhan Omar off for anti-Semitism. Brett, what do you think?
There's a lot to go through there. First of all, I am sad that the one of the most Oscar-winningest actor of all time, Kevin Sorbo, is upset. I'm
not upset. I'm disappointed.
Disappointed. Everyone look that up. Then Matt Gaetz actually is in that Ken Buck category. He says, I voted with the majority on the matter, but I can't say that it was the best feeling in the world to look at speech as some sort of threshold for someone's participation in the political process. He still voted along with it. So
good catch.
He's anti-free speech, is essentially what he's saying.
Sort of according to him.
He's saying he censored her. Matt Gaetz said that he used, this is not like a private company saying you can't do something. This is the government censoring someone, according to Matt Gaetz. So the Republicans who are doing this thing where they say like, you're racist, I'm not racist, I think there should be separate drinking fountains, but you're racist, right? Don't tell people there were separate drinking fountains. Please enshrine my white power as something that can never be challenged or even mentioned to children or grown-ups ever, anywhere. You're racist. So they are anti-free speech, according to Matt Gaetz. I love Charlie Kirk saying that, oh my God, why is she bouncing all over the place? He's just upset that he thinks he did all the coke. He can't imagine other people would do all the coke. I think between him and Ben Shapiro, he's like, the only people who should be bouncing and talking fast are me, because he has like weird coke face. Please watch his stuff and that. And then Will Cain calling someone else a parasite is the biggest hypocrisy in the world. Will Cain bounces around from being like a sports guy to being a political guy based on who will pay him to say whatever heely thing he says. That's his skill. And he's like this pretty little white boy that, Will Cain, he's a nice boy. It's stupid. Pete Hegseth is a moron. We know that to be the case. But so in the anti-immigration thing is anti-American. So they're anti-free speech. They're anti-American because they do not want you to give them their tired, their poor, their huddled masses yearning to breathe free. They don't want that. They're anti-American. They're anti-liberty. And they are antichrists, to be honest, because Christ would look at people who are refugees. Christ, who was a refugee, he would look at them and accept them in, and respect who they are and everything like that. They are anti-Christ. They are anti-American. They are anti-free speech. And so every time they call everyone else a racist but them, just remember that is the right criticism to levy against them based on their own arguments.
Great point. I am shocked that you were able to remember all of those weirdos that I referenced, but I couldn't agree more. Okay, we're gonna take a short break. When we come back though, we got a couple stories that might not be on your radar yet, but I think both deserve to be there. So stick around, we'll be right back. Anyway, let's move into some news. Two small stories, but really important, consequential. Let's do it. A federal appeals court ruled just yesterday that the government cannot, in fact, stop people who have domestic violence restraining orders out against them from owning guns. Now let's backtrack and see how we got to this point that the Fifth Circuit Court could make this determination and change so many state level laws all at one time. So police in Texas found a rifle and a pistol at the home of a man who was the subject of a civil protective order that banned him from harassing, stalking, or threatening his ex-girlfriend and their child. The order also banned him from having guns. Federal grand jury indicted the man who pled guilty, but he later challenged his indictment, arguing the law that prevented him from owning a gun was unconstitutional. At first, the federal appeals court ruled against him, saying that it was more important for society to keep guns out of the hands of people accused of domestic violence than it was to protect a person's individual right to own a gun. But then last year, the US Supreme Court issued a new ruling in a case known as New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin. That case set new standards for interpreting the Second Amendment by saying the government had to justify gun control laws by showing that they are consistent with the nation's historical tradition of firearm regulation, which is a thing that they came up with that isn't applied to literally anything else in our politics, but that they thought it would be convenient to stop gun control legislation from existing. That's basically how that worked. I'm not a lawyer, but I think that that's the spark notes of it. Anyway, the appeals court withdrew its original decision and on Thursday decided to vacate the man's conviction and ruled that the federal law banning people subject to domestic violence restraining orders from owning guns was unconstitutional. So there are certain state level laws that will not be affected by this. I believe California, which has a version of this red flag law, will not be affected, but we're going to see the ramifications going forward for this. And I want you to focus, while we're talking about the Supreme Court and NRA and all that stuff, this comes down to there is a never-ending rash of people who have committed acts of domestic violence who go on to murder their partner. Generally, men murdering women. And generally, they do it with a gun. We'll give you more of the stats soon, but that is the stakes here. Today, as a result of that ruling, the odds of this happening more, the number of people, especially women, who will be murdered as a result of this have gone up. We don't know yet who, we don't know which state it'll be in, but that is the actual effect. It is the known predictable outcome of this, and the Supreme Court has done it anyway. Or what do you think?
In every case I could see leading up to this, you, in order to get a restraining order, can't just say like, I think he's a stalker. Like, I think he is a abuser. You have to present some physical evidence in addition to your allegations and sworn statements. So it's not like, I understand the counter argument being like, you can't just say I'm an abuser and suddenly I'm an abuser, innocent until proven guilty. But there is a review process. So the law does enter into it. A judge says this is a valid restraining order or a non-valid restraining order. And so I don't see their counter argument as holding water, especially if our goal is to protect people. And if that's the case, then I would say that the Republican Party and all these people that have taken part in changing and packing the Supreme Court over time through very nefarious, non-American traditionalist means, they are arguing that we arm felons who have murdered people.
Yeah.
Their argument is there is no law or consequence of breaking a law or consequence of a judge's action against you as the accused that should result in you losing your constitutional amendment, Second Amendment right to bear arms. So they are essentially arguing that we should give guns to criminals. We should give guns to murderers, thieves, anyone who's committed any kind of violent crime. And I am with them on that. And I don't think we should stop at giving them the right to do that. I think we should actually have the Republicans who vote for this go present the guns to the abusers in these cases. Personally, go to their houses and give them, I don't know, why stop at a handgun? Go with a shotgun, an AR-15, give them tanks for abusers.
Yeah. Hashtag tanks for abusers, the GOP today. I told you I would give you some of the stats, and I want to. So first of all, I said most. It's 2/3 of women that are killed by an intimate partner are killed with a gun. Obviously, having the gun makes it far easier for these broken men to do it, and they do. But the overall numbers of how much this happens it's just shocking. Every month, an average of 70 women are shot and killed by an intimate partner. That is, I don't know, you can decide for yourself. If I asked you, how many do you think happen a month? I don't know what you would have said. Let me know in the chat what you would have said. I would not have guessed anything like 70. That is an absolute epidemic. Over 4.5 million women have reported being threatened with a gun by an intimate partner. There's a measurable percentage of the population. And access to a gun makes it 5 times more likely that a woman will die at the hands of a domestic abuser. That is what they are pushing for. And so obviously with all of these sorts of things, you need to weigh, if you actually care about the outcome, which they don't, you need to weigh, what are the pros and cons? So taking it out of the hands of someone who has already committed acts of domestic violence dramatically lowers the chance that the woman will die. And on the other hand, he won't have the gun for a bit. What was he planning to do with the gun that he so desperately needed to have it during that specific period of time?
He's defending himself.
Why did he have to have it?
He's defending himself from her attitude. from her nagging. That's what he's doing. From her telling him to stop drinking. That's what he's doing. Like, that's their argument. That's how pathetic and weak the argument is. That's the only thing I can justify.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's so stupid. This is an argument for them to just go buy a video game. If you want to shoot people up, if you want to have like, I have a gun, you have a gun, just go play a video game.
Seriously. This is just, look, when we say that elections matter, when we say that the Supreme Court matters, and that you should always think about the future of the Supreme Court when it comes to an election, this is what we're talking about. Not just the initial, not just like one thing that they do, but insane faux precedents that they set. They did that thing in the Supreme Court last year to tell other courts, just have a ball, man. Just knock down all gun control effectively. And that is what we're seeing. And it is going to continue to play out for years and years.
Last thing I'll say on this is, if you look at the prevailing argument that the right has against criminal justice reform, prosecution reform, it's that the left is letting all these criminals out of prison so they can go commit crimes again.
Yeah.
This is the same dynamic. They're arming people who are 5 times more likely to kill their domestic partner. They're creating a situation where it's 5 times more likely for a domestic partner to be murdered. That's it. That's their argument. They are the thing that they criticize.
And they're pro-life. Never forget that. Okay, so we're gonna have to do this really fast, but it is important. So let's jump into this video.
The school lunch program. If we could find a way for the students to work to earn credits for their school lunch, I don't think we'd see any of the waste we do in that program, because it doesn't mean much.
We are the richest country in the world, and their proposal to deal with waste is, I feel like that 3rd grader is probably getting one over on the school with the old free lunch. So Idaho Representative Ron Mendive, he thinks his state school kids should have to sweat for their Friday boxed pizza, their chicken nuggets, and their reheated mashed potatoes, or whatever it is. He didn't say specifically what he wants them to do. I don't know if they would be sweeping floors, wiping down tables, doing landscaping, constructing a new gym. I don't know what he thinks they should do to get their food or whatever. He also didn't indicate how he plans to get around Idaho's child labor laws, which say that children must be at least 14 for non-agricultural work. So maybe he'll put them to work in agriculture. I don't know. Also, good to see that Idaho has child labor laws. That's good. I don't know if I would have bet on that. So that's good to see. Anyway, the law is supposed to be enforced by local school boards as well as by probation officers. So, like Brett, I don't know how many. It becomes difficult to even parody what they're gonna propose. That like a little bit of food that's given to a kid who gets a free lunch, which means the family does not have a lot of resources, might be going hungry at home. Millions of American kids are. And his thing that he has all of his time to put into literally solving any problem for his constituents. He sees a kid getting a free tuna sandwich, and he thinks that kid should work harder for it.
At school, by the way, where they have school worksheets, homework. You total moron. And also, those kids will perform better at their schoolwork, their homework, and their worksheets if they're not starving. And this man is anti-jobs. He is looking to eliminate good paying jobs in America for the people who clean the classrooms, for the janitorial staff, for the teachers. He's looking to eliminate that good, honest paying job that is legal and replace it with child labor.
Yep.
Which is insane.
Yeah. Protect the kids, put them to work. That's what he wants. So again, like you might have been wondering over the past year or so, when they ban like all education, what are kids gonna do in school all day long? No, they have a solution. They're gonna put them to work. They should be chimney sweeps or something. They're small, they can fit in there. We'll find something for them to do at their time.
Actually, what we should do is give them like an Apple Watch situation, monitor their calorie count. If we don't want any waste, we don't want these kids running around during recess. We don't want them exercising. We want them sitting as still as possible. If I'm going to pay for your tuna sandwich, I own your calories.
100%.
Taxpayer calories.
Well, I don't know this guy or whatever, and based on this, wouldn't want to. He was part of a successful effort to strip climate change from the curriculums in Idaho schools, so that's fun. I mean, it's happening, it's inevitable, it's gonna happen, but your kids shouldn't learn about it, okay. He also joined like-minded legislators in opposing a $6 million federal early education grant intended for working parents with children aged 5 and under. He says there's waste. He says we need to fill the gap in the budget by making kids work. The federal government tried to give them $6 million for free and they blocked it. Why? Because he said it would indoctrinate preschoolers with, can you finish the sentence? Critical race theory. These people are in charge in big parts of the country. We should do something about that. Okay, we gotta take our break. We come back, lots more news to get to, don't go anywhere. Donald Trump's running for president again, but don't worry, the Republicans have a strategy for dealing with him. Now, it's subtle, it's behind the scenes, but they're thinking long term, that it will solve all of their problems with this guy. His insane rhetoric, him elevating absolute chuckleheads and making them Senate candidates. This is going to solve all of that for them, okay? We're gonna get there. You need to understand, The Atlantic spoke to a lot of former Trump loyalists, insiders to the Republican Party about this. They say that based on the talks they've had, aside from his most blinkered loyalists, so I don't know, Stephen Miller or something, virtually everyone in the party agrees it's time to move on from him. Okay, so easier said than done though. A lot of Americans still like him. He's been around for a long time, he's got a lot of money, so how do you do that? Well, ask them how they plan to do it, and the discussion quickly veers into the realm of hopeful hypotheticals. Maybe he'll get indicted and his legal problems will overwhelm him. Maybe he'll flame out early in the primaries or just get bored with politics and wander away. Maybe the situation will resolve itself naturally. He's old after all. How many years can he have left? That is, for some of them, their actual plan. We're gonna sit and we're gonna wait and let nature take its course. In his recent book, Thank You for Your Servitude, The Atlantic writes, it's Mark Leibovich who wrote it, quoted a former Republican representative who bluntly summarized his party's plan. We're just waiting for him to die. As it turns out, it's not an uncommon sentiment. In McKay Coppin's conversations with the Republicans, I heard repeatedly that the least disruptive path to getting rid of him, grim as it sounds, might be to wait for his expiration. Their rationale, though, was straightforward. Former president is 76 years old, overweight, appears to maintain the diet of a college freshman, and believes, contrary to all science, that exercise is bad for you. However, and I did not know this, I knew all of that about him. His mom died at 88 and his father at 93. So that doesn't mean everything, but what if we still have 15 to 20 years with Donald Trump, Brett? What do you think?
I love it so much. It's funny
so cowardly.
Is it cowardly? It's not cowardly. They're not just waiting for him to die. They want it to seem like they're just waiting, doing what they can in the meantime, but they're not waiting for him to die. They are unleashing campaign after campaign, hope against hope, dollar after dollar toward Ron DeSantis to save them from this. And because they've learned what they wanted from Donald Trump. They got the guy who is gonna, animate the racists and the hateful people in America to get involved in politics. The lost, poor white voter that is not just motivated by abortion issues. That's what they're motivating with CRT and gas stove nonsense. The M&Ms, all of that. That's what they learned from. Pick stupid fights, stay in the news. And hopefully you can make people forget about Donald Trump. Does he still have it? Sure, maybe, I don't know. But they're not just waiting for him to die.
Not just,
it would be
but
nice.
like they're supporting Ron DeSantis. That is true. And I think that they are more willing to allow that to be a clear strategy than they would have been a few years ago. But it's not like all of the biggest Republicans are putting out unified ads, shredding Donald Trump, warning the base that he's gonna lose in 2024. Like there is way more that if they wanted to be brave, I think they could do to try to peel off little bits of his support. And I think that would raise the chance that they beat him. It would also raise the chance that if they don't beat him, all of them would be kicked out of the party, which is why I don't think they're doing it, which is why I think it is still cowardice. They're not doing nothing, I agree with you, but they're not doing anything approaching as much as they could.
No, they're doing exactly what they think they can do. Because they don't want to alienate
do without taking heat, I think.
Yeah,
I think this is about protecting themselves. That is cowardice. That's what
it's funny.
Saying.
It's just like the rose,
but
it's just the rose-colored glass, or the way to make themselves feel good about how powerless they are. Yeah. There's a weird we're doing something active. We're waiting for him to die. It's still an admission of defeat, even though.
That is good. I do like that. Okay, you get a Blue Apron gift card. Let's move into our last topic, starting with this.
Just says everything about my friends across the aisle that you can't condemn socialism. I mean, in your opening remarks, you were talking about Putin, Kim Jong-un, and Xi. You know what they all have in common, right?
Trump.
Trump? North Korea, China, and Russia?
He loves Kim Jong-un.
That's quite the intellectual leap. I would say communism. Would you like to denounce any communist leaders?
Well, I don't know what you're asking, but let me just. The leader of the Republican Party, Donald Trump, has made often glowing, described authoritarians like Kim Jong-un, who is condemned in the resolution. Regarding North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, Trump said, Kim wrote me beautiful letters, and they're great letters, and we fell in love. You sure you want to hear the rest of this?
I'm not sure that he does. That was a great, like she already was prepared to do something like that. He set it up for her as if she'd slipped him a 20 to do it. Like, would you like to go off on what suspiciously connects all three of these things? No, it is Trump. Yeah, he loves all of them. He loves to talk. By the way, it isn't just that, like, she's not saying like he's not bombing them or whatever. He gushes about them. And he's perfectly willing to criticize foreign leaders that he doesn't like. Take a look at what he says about Trudeau and Macron and Zelensky and all of that. He can be brutal if he doesn't like them or doesn't like what he thinks is true of their country or whatever. It's just that when it comes to dictators, many of which are in these communist states that they love to demonize so much, he has no problem whatsoever with them or the terrible authoritarian things that they do. So I think credit to Maxine Waters, that was well played. Bart, what do you think?
Calling Russia under Putin communist is like calling America a monarchy. Because before we had America as we know it now, a constitutional republic or whatever,
yeah.
We had a system known as a monarchy, a constitutional monarchy under Great Britain in the United Kingdom or whatever. Like, you can't do that. He's like factually wrong in his approach to it. And here's something that was fun, that was awesome. Maxine Waters nailed it. Whatever, she much like Nancy Pelosi can't get through reading a sentence. It's really sad. I wish she was like better.
She's on the older side. We need to be understanding, but yeah.
Still, I don't think that really factors into it. I think it's just, anyways.
Super final point. We have like 30 seconds.
All right, final point is the argument that their strategy in saying we need to censure or rebuke socialism is just so they can eliminate Social Security and Medicare. They're coming after it. They want to privatize it. They want to hand it over to the kleptocrats. And we need to say that over and over and over again. And whenever they say, no, that's false, we just need to play that video of Mike Lee saying he wants to get rid of Social Security.
100%. With that said, everyone, Indisputable is up next. I'm gonna be leading the first hour of the Young Turks a little bit later on, so I hope to see you there. For now, though, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and I'll see you soon.
Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Damage Report. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, John Adarola. I'll see you soon.